Hi, I'm Danielle, and this is Chatter Out Loud, a podcast where I share thoughts and TV commentary on shows I like to watch. Now, before I start, I want to ask that you go ahead and like, follow, share, and subscribe. And on YouTube, where I upload my companion episode of my podcast, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. This way you can get a notification every time I post a new episode, and you won't miss out. So welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. Your presence is very much appreciated. Okay, so I have a few thoughts on what's been happening on the live feeds in BBCAN Season 10. And so this is going to be really quick. I was really good last time at being really quick, so let's see if I can make it 2 episodes in a row. All right. Well, first, my heart is breaking for Summer. Yeah, I have to admit I don't like seeing her on the block, but it's part of the game, right? We already know that Gino is the HOH, and he nominated Summer and Moose. During the outro of last night's episode that aired, Summer told us that Gino is dead to her. And if she survives the week, I hope she means it. So just to rewind a little, during last night's episode, Arissa opened the show with explaining to the viewers that there was a technical malfunction during the Buzzkilled HOH. So they had to play a new HOH game, and that's what they aired last night. The new HOH competition was before and after. The house guests had to answer questions based on events that have happened in the house. The person that has the most points wins. During the comp, there was a temptation to get a half card or a slot pass. And by claiming the slot pass, the house guests would forfeit 1 point. And it's important to note that they'd been on slop. The house guest has been on slop for a couple of days, or for a day. And I don't know why they were put on slop, but they were put on slop. And we see that the slop affects the house guests emotionally, right? We see that every season. So having a slop pass would be very tempting. We also saw how Josh had a meltdown because the house was put on slop. And it was funny how Betty was trying to console him and laughing at him at the same time. Oh, by the way, I think I mentioned this before. Have you guys heard Betty's laugh? It makes me chuckle every time I hear it. Hold on, I have my phone. I'm going to play it. All right, hopefully you can hear this. I'm going to play it again. That's Betty's laugh. Every time I hear it, it cracks me up. Oh, man. But anyway, so when she's trying to console Josh, we hear that laugh. It just made me crack up. All right. Anyway, Marty claimed the slot pass as well. Even though he wasn't playing in the HOH, he was eligible for a slot pass. So he went for it. JC Lynn and Summer were the other two that claimed the half cards or the slot pass. There were 5 slot passes total, and only 3 were claimed. And they were claimed by Marty, JC Lynn, and Summer. And I found it interesting that Gino commented negatively, by the way, on Summer going for a slot pass when JC Lynn went for one too. At the end of the HOH comp, Gino won and he nominated Summer and Moose. All right. So going into picking veto players, Gino's plan was to backdoor Marty. And by the spin of the wheel, JC Lynn, Josh, and Helena were picked. And then we have Moose and Summer because they are on the block. So Moose, Summer, JC Lynn, Josh, and Helena all are playing in the Power of Veto competition. And Kevin is the host. When we first heard who was going to play, based on Gino's plan, right, to backdoor Marty, many of the house guests or the house guests that knew the plan, and many of us, right, we said, oh, that's good news. If the plan is to backdoor Marty, Marty's not playing in this competition, so things are looking good, right? Or wrong. However, if you heard from what I heard on the feeds, Gino omitted telling Josh and Betty about the plan, right? Everyone else knew, but he didn't tell those two. And I bring that up because I think that's where the plan began to fail, right? I believe if Josh was made aware of the plan, he would be for it. Thus, he wouldn't have allegedly thrown the win to Helena. And according to Josh, the reason he threw the comp to Helena is because he didn't want to win in an attempt to keep his hands clean. This is Josh's thought process, right? And not to mention, he's all in and committed to the Crash Test Dummies alliance. And that alliance is himself, or Josh, Kevin, and Helena. But what Josh doesn't know is that Marty is also close with Kevin and Helena. I don't think they put a name on that alliance yet. Excuse me. So had Josh known the plan, I think he would have been on board with it, and he may not have been so willing to allegedly throw the power of veto to Helena. It would be a chance for him to add an assist to his resume, right? He helped get out Marty, the big player in the house, the strong player in the house, quote unquote strong player. He could have had that on his resume. So I think had he known the plan, he would have played differently. All right. And, I have to bring this up as well. I think Summer chose Helena. Like Summer got a house guest choice and she chose Helena. I think that was a bad read on Summer's behalf. On Summer's part, I should say, if that's true. I can't wait to see the next episode to see how all this played out. All right. I mentioned earlier, Marty is close to Helena and Kevin, right? So although Josh is in an alliance, that Crash Test Dummies alliance with Kevin and Helena, he doesn't know that Kevin and Helena are close with Marty. And he also doesn't know about Helena and Kevin. They're in the final two called the Ghosts. I don't know how I missed that, but okay. So Kevin and Helena, they're playing nicely. All right. This is why. Okay. I'm trying to read through my notes and do this at the same time. The reason I'm bringing up Marty, Helena, and Kevin being close is because Kevin knows of the plan to backdoor Marty. And I don't know if he necessarily told Helena, but he swayed her from using it. And the reason that Helena wouldn't have used it, she probably didn't need any convincing, to be honest, is because she's close with Marty. And so there was no chance of once Helena won the power of veto, there wouldn't be a chance of her using it because of her relationships with Marty and Kevin, right? They are a shield for her. And she knows this. I'm sorry. Helena is playing and doing a good job. So, okay. Let's see. I just said it. Helena didn't use the veto, and after the power of veto ceremony, Summer and Moose remained on the block, and one of them will go home. Okay, a few observations. I don't understand the Summer bashing. I really don't get it. Next, Gino's comments and thoughts related to Summer's game is off-putting to me. I wonder if he's bothered because he can't control Summer. I wonder. His whole thing in his speech and what he said to her after the nomination, saying he was pushing her to be a competitor and show the house guests she is playing, and wanted for her to play under pressure because he feels like she's too comfortable with everyone. And I'm like, oh, how noble of you, Gino. I mean, by his own admission, he's just really tired of making her food and cooking for her. And to me, this is screaming fragile ego. I'm just saying. Summer is playing the game. It just looks different because she hasn't had to play defense yet. Not up until this point, right? Of being put on the block. And I believe they resent her for it. They want Summer to experiencing having to fight for her life in the game and being on the block because they've had to experience it. So they want her to have that same experience because it's not fair. She hasn't been put on the block. It's like so juvenile. And remember what we've heard multiple house guests mention, we don't want her to have the I've never been on the block speech, right? Their messaging is so conflicting to me. On one hand, she's not playing the game and everyone's doing things for her. Yet on the other hand, you don't want her to be able to say she's never been on the block as part of her game, because we know she's done well at the social aspect of the game. And maybe they are afraid of that. That has power in the end. That has power in an end game, right? When you're trying to get jury votes. Maybe that's what they're scared of. But they're using the other stuff to cover their resentment. I hate that playing Big Brother is always defined by who wins the most comps. People also vote based on how you make them feel. It's just facts. The facts. Remember, Derek F used to say that in BB23. He used to say that all the time. It's the facts. The facts. I'm just laying out facts, Azza. Anyway, the social part of the game takes a lot of effort. It does. I mean, look at Melina. No, look at Jess. That's a better example. Jess's social game stunk. Jess had no real allies, despite what Marty says. He didn't pick her in that chain of safety. And when Jess was HOH, they still couldn't leverage it to gain safety in the game. And again, I go back to Marty not choosing Jess during that chain of safety. Right? The social game has a lot to do with how or whether or not you can win the game. Jess had poor social game and was unable to build relationships, poor allyship, right? And with Melina, when I was first going to use her as an example, Melina, we heard the house guests repeatedly say, well, she hasn't talked to me and she's isolating herself in the room. That's part of a social game. And they used that against her to justify getting her out. Yet we have someone like Summer who sees value in a social game. And that's part of her strategy. She's using that as part of her game strategy. It's gameplay. And I can't stand when people argue that she's not doing anything or she's not playing and she's not doing anything because they equate her comp wins. And I'm like, it just annoys me. And by the way, I anticipate the closer we get to the end of the game, watch how quickly people shift their mindset into that social part of the game. Just watch. Because by then they'll be vying for people's votes and they know that being or having a good social game is what wins you the Big Brother game, right? Because you can win all the comps you want, but if you made me feel like crap during the game, you're not getting my vote. And that's just the facts. Oh, man. All right. Gino also talked about Summer not taking the game seriously because she's going for the slot pass. This was during the HOH comps, right? They showed his part in the DR where he's like, it's just like Summer to go for the slot pass. She's not taking the game seriously. And I'm like, give me a break. He's on his high horse, like so self-righteous. Meanwhile, JC Lynn was the first one that ran to get that slot pass, and she found the first one. And let's not forget that JC Lynn also went for that food temptation when they were playing the original HOH comp, the Buzzkill comp. Remember? We didn't see that energy towards JC Lynn. Didn't she need to win the HOH just as much as Gino needed to win to advance their game, the showmance, right? Or was JC Lynn relying on Gino to win to advance them forward? Why didn't Gino have that same energy towards JC Lynn? It's a rhetorical question. We know why. All right. The secret veto. There was a secret veto or secret power in the house. Apparently, the house guests were talking about this veto or some power that no one used. And the expiration date was by the last power veto ceremony. So I'd be interested to see more about that in tomorrow night's episode. I don't know much more about that. I have a suspicion of who had that power, but we'll all know for sure tomorrow. All right. Gino took Moose to Wendy's. Yeah, that's all I want to say about that. Again, I'm worried for Summer because there's likely a chance for her to go home this week. And if she does, that's okay. She took a calculated risk in her game. And that's okay. But be clear, she is playing the game. And her social game is strong, and that's part of her strategy, and it should be respected. Yes, she does need to win a comp to be able to shift, or get out another player that's targeting her, or players, I should say. But up to this point of Gino feeling it necessary to put her on the block because he needed to teach her a lesson. Take the game seriously, be a competitor, and completely dismissing her social game. And actually, he didn't dismiss it. He was like, I feel you're too comfortable with everyone in the house. Like, what is that? Whatever. I don't want to go backwards. But I'm worried for Summer. All right. I feel Kevin is thought of highly as playing the game, right? He has a lot of influence over moves in the house, which I consider equally as important. The influence over the game, the social part of the game. But he hasn't won an HOH. But does he really need to? Right? His social game has been very strong. He has influence over the past 2 HOHs. And dare I say, a little bit of influence over this HOH because they wanted to backdoor Marty. He didn't let that happen. Or he was he helped for that not to happen. What am I saying? Kevin, in terms of him being a partner or an ally with Helena and Marty, and he knew of the plan to backdoor Marty, he just made sure that Helena was strong in not using the veto. That's what I'm saying. And he is not the HOH this week. But that social element of the game where he's influencing people, he's talking to people, he's in multiple alliances right now. Isn't that part of the BB game? Right? But why isn't he thought of as not playing? Like, give me a break. Okay. Gino told Kevin that a girl needs to go. This was after he asked Kevin if everyone was on board with getting Moose out. And he said afterwards, it'll be time for a girl to go. And that one comment alone is also why I like Gino less. Why is it time for a girl to go? Because they think the girls are sliding through to the end. Why is that? Because when it comes to the girls, they only value winning comps as playing Big Brother. It's just so tired to me. But it's okay. I remind myself that this is a game. It's entertainment. I don't know any of these people. The only effect that they have on my life is the level of entertainment of the Big Brother game. And that's only temporary, right? I always say soon after the next BB season is underway, we'll be on to the next. Who do you think will go home this week, Summer or Moose? Each of them are trying hard right now with their pictures to the other house guests. That's part of the social game, right? Let me know what you think in the comment. Thank you very much. And that's all I have. So be sure to come back and give me a listen. I'd love for you to like, follow, share, and subscribe. Leave me a comment. Leave me a message. If you're listening to the podcast, there's a link to leave me a message. So please check that out. My name is Danielle, and you're listening to my podcast, Chatter Out Loud. Thank you so much for joining me. And as always, I appreciate your support. And that's all I have. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.